Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P. Girl. What's cracking, queens? Missed you. Last week we did kind of some more ebbs and flows on recovery a little bit, and because I don't shut the fuck up about it, because I can't handle change. Thank you. And it's kind of been frustrating me, if you can't tell, recently. And relapse streams. It was an okay episode. I know, y'all. The episodes recently have been like, I'm getting there. Okay, sometimes I need a little revamp. I do this every week. Give me some space. I'm just one girl. And speaking of relapse streams, I keep dreaming about doing mushrooms. Scared of mushrooms now, actually. Thank you. My ego deaths were really deep. And sometimes I didn't know who the fuck I was, genuinely. So I don't want mushrooms. Don't know why I'm dreaming about them, but it's been kind of trippy. Not sure. Moving on. We have a special week this week. I'll do a few little warm-ups for you guys, but I have 6 pages sitting here ready for you to indulge in. I'm cracked out. I've been tweaked as fuck for the past 2 days. And I think it's because I can't swim, because I showed you guys the outer gator hold down under Australia situation last week. And because of it, I can't swim, and it's causing this amount of energy in me that I can't contain. And it's been taking me an hour and a half to go to sleep at night, and I feel like a toddler. And I've been not having caffeine past a certain hour, and I'm still running rampant and just giggling and running around. So pardon me if I'm absolutely tweaked today. My energy is too much for you. But I'm not going to pipe down. No, I'm not. Not going to contain it. Thank you for asking. Moving on. Couple of warm-ups this week. The first, I just wrote down JB, so I guess we're talking about Justin Bieber. And that's because y'all don't know if you know this about me. I am a hardcore believer. I've been a believer for years, y'all. I'm telling you, I thought that man was my husband. The first concert I ever went to was a Justin Bieber concert, and I was convinced I was going to be caught on stage. I was convinced that he was going to propose to me. I was in the nosebleeds. He did not. But in my head, we were in love for a lot of years. And I have been on the side of TikTok that is fan edit Bieber TikTok, fueling my soul. And somebody was commenting and saying it's like seeing an ex. Can't relate to that more. I truly can't. And there's this video of him in the bowling alley singing, and I just miss him because he's not the same, you know? And I'm referring to the time period. There's a couple time periods of Biebs, and I will always support him. I'm tweaking out. I will always support him. Please. Oh my God. But if you're a believer, you understand this. You know, through addiction, through it all. And I think before I go back to the point that I was going to make because I'm tweaking, there was a documentary series that I watched on YouTube about Justin Bieber many years ago, and it really united me with him because I didn't know I was an addict yet, but I knew that I understand what the fuck he was saying, and he didn't sound crazy to me. And that isn't in an in love obsessive way, in a way that I got him, you know? It sounds crazy. But you guys should go watch that. It's very inspiring. Now, 2 eras of the Biebs. Flippy hair Biebs, obviously. Never say never Biebs. Come on. Heartthrob. Teen heartthrob. That was my man's. I was 9. Maybe. The ripe age of 9. Second was journals. When he had when he was getting the tattoos and he had his hair short-esque. I don't know. You know what the fuck I'm talking about if you're a true believer? You know. So anyways. don't know this man whatsoever. But I think just being on that side of TikTok, I've been listening to him again. I know. I'll admit it. And it just elicited this child nostalgia situation for me that y'all know how I feel about nostalgia. It's important. I love when I am in love with shit the same way I was as a kid. I'm not that in love with the Biebs, but you know what I mean. When it elicits this feeling of just warmth and childhood. I live for that shit. So, manic start. I'm really sorry about that. Movie. Always somebody outside my window, y'all. I got that look in my eye, don't I? Moving on. I am back on my Rihanna grind. we're just sticking with pop stars today, I guess. Y'all know I love talking about some pop stars. Love me some pop stars. Really, truly. And I spent a strong amount of my life being obsessed with Rihanna and Beyonce and singing to them really loudly in the car, in the fishbowl, blunt in the mouth. Sometimes it would, straight up, just in pain. Don't know why. I don't know who hurt me. I really don't. And I used to belt that shit. I would pick up the homegirls, scoot around town, going to do whatever I do, just belting that shit. And any of my friends, especially you, Victoria Zorn, or my sister, can really attest to that. And something happened to me the last few days where Rihanna came on and I was like, oh, it's happening. Maybe I'm reverse aging. Does it look like it? Minus the breakout. Thank you. Why'd you bring that up? Fucking rude. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm tweaked. But I thought I'd bring that up. And then I was going to sing. Y'all know I'm a singer. I'm a singer. I love to sing. Okay? Not necessarily good at it. And I was going to belt some of Rihanna and Beyonce's music, as a young woman does. And I realized I could not hit Needed Me the same. See? But baby, who? I used to hit that shit clean off a joint. Clean. Anyways. Not the final point. God, I was kind of hoping it was. I hate warm-ups. But I need them desperately. So it's the year of the snake. This was actually something that was brought to my attention in a meeting. I can't lie. And it just stuck with me. Not enough to make a topic out of it. But the shedding of skin is a thing that's apparently happening this year, 2025, year of the snake. Learning that at the end of the year. And that has been a true theme in my life. Just shedding my old ways and becoming anew. I don't know why I feel like sharing that. But if you partake, just know that 2026 is going to be bomb. Okay. What am I, fucking Ellen? Like, come on. But we will have some episodes where I was going to do a whole winter arc situation. Do you guys remember when I did Sober Curious program, weeks 1 through 4, and we had the website and we did all the stuff? I was thinking about following something similar programming style and doing winter arc. But here's the thing. I just don't think there's enough to talk about to do a whole situation. So maybe I'll do like a book and we'll work on like spring arc or summer arc, because I think they're just as important and the grind never stops. Y'all know how I feel about the gains. Grind never stops. And that is including our emotional sobriety as well. Thank you. So we'll have an episode of winter arc and we'll talk about the new year coming up, because I am a New Year's resolution girl. I never really was, but I am now. And I don't know. It seems as though podcast style, the end of this year is very us recapping things that we have learned, etc. And my episodes are getting stale. I can't lie. I already said that, but they were getting stale. And I think I need to shed my skin and make anew. So we're just doing a whole lot of getting ready for the new year. And I think that's a really important, good way to start. Because y'all know when I talk about like during September, I think it's an important time period to utilize, because the energy is already in the air of all the kids going back to school and of people getting back into work, whatever have you be it. And I love that time period. And I feel like New Year is the same way for me. I think it's just important to rejuvenate. Clearly. So, don't even know what I was talking about. Last point. Did you guys catch that side eye? I've been hitting that side eye like somebody's fucking mama recently. Y'all ain't fucking with me. Y'all ain't fucking with me. Kepler planets. I have talked to you about Kepler planets before, and you didn't really seem to give a fuck. You should. Kepler planets are a series of planets that are basically Earth. Yeah, rocky plains, water, they got it all. But the only issue is they're really, really far away. Like a bunch of stuff in space, and I don't like that. And I don't understand, I don't know. Just if my brain gets really fucked up when it comes to space. We all know that. And I'm not going to get too into Kepler planets because we're already at 10 minutes, and I've talked to you about it, but that should shake you to the core that there are a series, not one, a series of planets out there, and they all are orbiting like a couple of stars and like a normal amount of moons, I think. Because, you know, you get into some of those planets, they got crazy amount of moons and shit. Not conducive for life. A couple, though, feels conducive. Feels gravitational to me. Talking out my ass. So, that's all I have for warm-ups. You're welcome. But this week, girl, what's happening? It's episode 50. Can you believe that? And almost, actually, 52 weeks is a year, right? So, right? I'm going to just roll with that and say that that's right. So basically, we've been doing this podcast for almost a year. And 50, I know I should probably be celebrating more in a few weeks when it is a year, but I just felt like that's nuts. Because I remember starting this and being like, we'll see where it goes. I remember posting the 12th for some reason. I don't know. Baker's dozen? Baker's dozen's 13. A dozen? Hitting that 12 post and being like, oh, 12? What the fuck? And now we're at 50 and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And we're shedding skin and rejuvenating. So, that being said, this week we are going to, I think, talk about some things that I have learned through both the podcast, through sobriety, through just the year. Just kind of a recap, but I'm going to try to not repeat myself too much from episodes past. If I am, I'm bringing them in because they're super important to my life now and a base of my sobriety to some degree. So I was going to do like 50 things I've learned in 50 weeks of making this podcast, but I feel like no one would click on that. Because who would want to hear me yap for 50 things? But that's essentially the vibe that we are going for now. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. I wanted to get cheesy for just a second and say thank you to everyone who listens, because this podcast has been more than a fucking pleasure to make. I don't care who listens. I don't care what the fuck's going on. It's been a fucking pleasure, babes. Thank you. And I have been a part of some really intense conversations and deep conversations and gotten to meet people. And it's fucking awesome to see that people do gain help from this. And that's all I wanted in the first place, was somewhere for people to go. And it seems as though that's what's happening. And I don't know. I was reflecting and thinking back at to the beginning of this podcast and throughout like the 20s and 30s of this episodes, and there was definitely times where I felt like I just wanted to quit, because the stress of putting something up every single week was at times kind of overwhelming, but I just kept doing it because I loved to do it. And I had to sacrifice other things in my life and build this little home, this little niche of podcasting for myself. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because I was like, damn, there were times that I didn't want to keep doing this. And it's not like something great has happened and I've been rewarded for any of this. It's just, to me, it feels really big, because I know 50 episodes doesn't sound like a lot, and to a lot of podcasts it's not. But to me, it feels really big because it's just me here, y'all. And I jumped through fear hoops. I know people listen to me on the internet. I had to learn to really not give a flying fuck at all what other people think of me. And honestly, like, it taught me a lot about consistency and about determination, more than anything ever in my entire life. And I think learning it in that way definitely reflected in my personal life and caused me to carry those traits of who I am as in determined for my, I almost called it craft. No, we're not doing that. For this, carried into who I am as a person. And I think it was the base of a lot of really, really great things in my life, whether it was sobriety or relationships or my emotions or healing, my mental health, just across the board, my nutrition, everything. It was a way for me to learn that consistency is key, not only here, but reflecting in every aspect of my life, no matter what it was. And that was like deep core rooted in how I learned about that consistency, because I showed up every week and I learned that I can show up for anything as much as I show up for this. I finally found something that I could put my energy to and something that I really loved so much that it didn't matter that I wasn't receiving success. It doesn't matter. It's enough that I get to help even one other person, and that's a cheesy thing a lot of people say and they don't fucking mean it, but I do. And that I get to help people at all. and that you guys DM me or reach out to me or find me on TikTok or find me wherever and talk to me. And that happens sometimes multiple times a week. That is the greatest gift in anything that I could receive. Because I remember a time that was very dark for me and I was looking for a place to be. So the fact that you guys find that little tidbit of magic of what I brought to this table here in some of this is great. But I think it shows that you can find something that you love. And this isn't my job by any means. We all know that. But sometimes helping other people is more important than success. And it took me a long time to learn that, and we'll get into that. I'm getting ahead of myself. So as we all know, at the base and pit of my doom and or sobriety, both has a lot to do with the topic of joy and happiness. We have spent a lot of time talking about joy and happiness. It was a huge reason I got sober and the biggest reason that I stayed sober, because that has been my quest all along. So I will not talk, we are going to start with that, but I promise you I'm not going to talk too much on joy and happiness because I know we discuss it a lot. But I guess because I was a very, very broken and sad person, and I straight up crawled to the beginning start line of this life that I live now. And what I had to learn about I just had no concept of myself, of self-love, of a higher power, of discipline. I had no concept of anything good and joyous, essentially. And I had been stripped bare bones, as you know. So, but what I learned about joy and happiness was that they were something that I had to work for. And when I sat down to write this, about what I would say to you today about some of the most important things in my sobriety, there's a lot to say, and I can't fit it all in. But what stuck out to me for some reason was that it was something that I had to work for. And it took me a long time to learn that, because I felt like happiness and joy were something that you were maybe rewarded, or something that I was just depleted of naturally in my life. And I think for me, because I watched other people, and joy and happiness wasn't going to come from a good day or from a good joke or from that right cup of coffee or from shopping or whatever, kind of like how it seemed to with everybody else. I learned that it had to be a mindset for me. This had to be a huge goal that I would work towards, that would require sacrifice, and for me to shift every mindset and every perspective that I already had at that point leading up, because I knew that I just had to learn how to make those things stick to me like they did other people. The walk, the cute glass. I almost said glass of wine, bitch. The fuck? You okay, girl? I relapsed today. It's not funny. I had to learn how to make the sunshine, all these temporary small increments of joy that stuck to other people. I had to get them to stick to me. But it was just going to take a different path and a different way to learn that, because not even medicine for the soul, like people talked about, was a way that I have followed trying to find happiness for a long time in my recovery and in my sobriety, because that's what everyone said. And what I was listening to were people on the internet who are normies, and that is fantastic and that is great for them. But I was depleted of every ounce of chemical balance that was possibly could occur in my brain at all. And that shit just wasn't going to work for me. And I was down bad, not only from addiction, but I was down bad emotionally, completely broken. And I think that should be representation for people who struggle with mental health as well. So I don't know. I just feel like I wanted to bring it up because I was just so broken, clearly. And nothing worked for me until I started to view happiness in that way. And that it might be one of those things that I would always have to work for. And I had to learn the acceptance in that situation and to be okay with it. And these topics today, these things that I bring up that were pivotal in my sobriety, kind of all fold into each other. Sometimes I talk and I'm like, am I actually a person? Am I real? I wanted to tell you guys something so bad that I can't tell you. Maybe I'll tell you next episode. Okay. I hate when people say that. I have something to tell you, but I can't tell you. Fuck you. Tell me the tea right now. Moving on. From there, I learned that my happiness was extremely skewed, and my vision of what happiness looked like was skewed. And that wasn't only I don't think because of the drugs and alcohol. I think that's its own situation. But I struggled very, very deeply with purpose my entire life. And for years, just wondering if I would ever amount to anything at any point in time. And those two things became very synonymous to me. Happiness and purpose were enveloped in the exact same thing. Purpose also meaning success. All of this just wrapped in the same thing. And so there was no room that happiness could exist within me if I wasn't getting what I thought I ought to. And I bring that up because we have discussed some of this before, but it caused a severe and deep depression inside of me. And I walked around like that for years. I have memory of when I was like 19, my mom came to visit me in college and we went out to eat, and I was in public crying to her about it because I couldn't figure it the fuck out. And it wasn't like a little thing where I know we're all meandering, we're looking for purpose, we're all trying to figure it out, but it was so deep rooted in me, and it made it impossible and what felt to be impossible to be happy. And I would learn, I had to tackle the beast of the purpose and of that whole situation. I couldn't keep scouring down to what that looked like for me. And your happiness may be enveloped in something else too. It might not be purpose or what it looks like for me, but I feel like a lot of people's happiness is synonymous to something else. And it deters us from being able to do the main thing, which is just joy. It's as simple as that. And sometimes it's such a simple thing and it takes such an complication to get there as individuals. But I would be rewarded with purpose. I would be rewarded with the purpose of taking care of myself, mind, body, and spirit, which is a full-time job still to this day. And I feel as though I'm comfortable in my sobriety, but at the beginning, an even more mind-boggling full-time job. But more importantly, my purpose would be to help others, which you guys hear me talk about a lot on here and is a driving factor. And what this did is that I finally could amount to more. And that when I walked away, I could leave something behind. I had that opportunity still to make a mark. And that was something that was dead to me. And yeah, I'm not too big to admit that it did have to do with me leaving a mark. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest about it. And I feel as though to some degree there is a massive amount of people that feel that way, that about leaving a mark, about walking away, because we get this one life and we feel as though we're grandiose enough to leave something. Whether that's notoriety, whether that's money, whether that's you finding your right job and doing what you're supposed to do, whether it does look like helping others. It's something a lot of us naturally want to do. And that's why I come to discuss it. I don't care if I sound shallow or whatever for it. But now that was something that had died to me. That had died. And I would no longer have a chance at that. I had killed it. So I thought. And I was re-granted that gift through the purpose of sobriety. Through the purpose sobriety had brought me of helping others and of leaving my mark. And it was this hope that I can amount to something now. And I think that that's really important, that hope had died, and when I talk about it now, hope is such a big part of my life and was a really big part of the beginning of my sobriety. I think what that did, providing me with my purpose and everything, or a purpose, was that I could now again partake in the simple pleasures that I kind of talked about earlier. And I think we all subconsciously yearn to be okay and be filled enough by simple pleasures. I don't think that's just an addict thing or just an alcoholic thing. I think we yearn to be chill, right? Am I crazy? To some degree, where that's enough for me. I'm happy with that. And we actually aren't. And I don't know why I fixated so much on being reunited with what simple pleasures are, but I was. And I could finally afford a second to stop and smell the roses because life wasn't moving too fast anymore. And it felt like I couldn't keep up with anything in my drunk life. Everything was I get to a mark and then boom. And how am I supposed to find purpose in all of this in the meantime? But caring for others and only taking care of my mind, body, and spirit. And that was my only job at the beginning of my sobriety. I sacrificed. I cleared my plate. And what I had to do was take care of me. And that was a really big relief as somebody who I spent so many years running from something, running to something. And at some point it was only from stuff. And I don't know, that relief was really pivotal for me in my personal sobriety and in my recovery. And it was something that I learned here, was like that fast life that I had been accustomed to for so long in the chaos. It didn't feel like it was going to end. Like my brain and my body was slowing down, but that feeling on the inside to keep sprinting as fast as I fucking could away from all my monsters, like, wasn't subsiding at the same time. And I couldn't numb it with drugs and alcohol like I could before. And I learned here that I am just a girl. I learned that in my core, and that I am generations of power and of strength. Seeing it in that way allowed me to see life as an opportunity. And thus that made life precious to me, because it was such a cool concept that I was alive, that I was a person, and now it was an opportunity. And it really invigorated me after years of darkness, of not wanting to be a person, of not feeling like I was a person or like I was even meant to be on this planet. And I would try to express that in so many ways, in so many medias, in so many forms, that I just felt like I didn't belong on earth. Like, yes, I wanted to die and I was suicidal, but part of me thought when I died I would just go home to wherever I belong, because it wasn't here. Like, I was dropped off at the wrong place. And that's something I choose to be vulnerable about, because I know other people feel it. I do know, though, that I was delusional. So, like, because of making life precious in this way, that I am so much more than a girl, and that I am so many things condensed and put together into one, and that I'm truly meant to be on earth, and that I was delusional and I was sick and I was ill as fuck. Ill. This allowed me to blossom into confidence in myself. It allowed me to learn how to be proud of who I am. And not because of what I look like or how funny I am or whatever the circumstance, or maybe being introspective and being able to talk about things. Those were the type of things that I was confident in before. But now it was because I think before I act, and because I care about how I treat others, and because I live in an amends of those I've hurt in the past and aim to do better in the future. And I was really confident in the fact that, yes, I had gotten away from the drugs and stuff, but I had really started to rid myself of judgment and of these ways that I had secretly felt about other people. And that's a strange thing to find confidence in, but we all have confidence in our own ways. And that really allowed me to hold my head high, to know that I was who I said I was, and that I was kind, and that I wanted other people to succeed. And that was not something that I truly had wanted before. People would succeed, and I'm like, that's great. But in my head, I felt like I deserved it. And that's something I'll admit. And to know that I wanted people to succeed and I didn't judge them and I wasn't overcomplicating them was a great way for me to keep my head high. Two, because of the foundation of that confidence and of it being an inner peace, it allowed me to be confident in who I am now and who I was when that was being built. Not this future, hopefully healed and maybe successful version of me, because I'm not her yet. And when I started to build the confidence, part of me rested in that, in this future hope of who she would be. And it was very like tearing in my confidence in a way. I wanted to be confident even on a bad day of who I am from the inside. And I think that's, again, because I spent so many years with my head so low and hating who I looked like, who I was, and just an overall disdain for her for years. And that's funny because in some ways I was ego fueled, and we have talked about before that you can hate yourself so much that you're like fucking narcissistic in a way. And that's because you think you deserve more than others and you think you're more important to some degree. That version of confidence that I was growing allowed me to let others win. And that it wasn't most important for me to be right, and that I could pause before I said what I wanted to say. And I could finally just save my breath on the last word, because it wasn't that fucking deep, and let other people win and be wrong and just be okay with that. And oddly enough, I think I lacked that confidence because I screamed to be heard. I must be heard. That's how I felt. And in a weird way, knowing deep down that I might be right and that that's fucking okay, and to let it go is an amount of confidence that I had never felt before, because I always screamed as loud as I fucking could to be heard. And solely now the outcome and how I react to it being more important was an opportunity at peace that I had not understood to any degree before in my entire life. Because I don't have to like people, but I do have to love them, period. As whether you want to say it's as a child of God or as a fellow citizen or just aiming for that to be a part of your life, I'm not sure. And I'm not even sure where that came from, because I didn't have a higher power or whatever, but I just knew that I had to love them if I didn't like them. And that caused me to not hurt people as badly, because I viewed them as someone as complex as me. But this kind of folds into the fact that, like, to be understood wasn't the absolute yearn of my soul as it had been for years and years and years. Like, I ran millions of miles and had so many drunks, so many highs on account of being understood. And that was one of the biggest gifts of my sobriety, and something that I didn't have to do anymore. And that's because I was both enough for myself now, and it didn't matter what other people thought or if they were going to walk away thinking they were right. But also because I was united with, and we'll talk some on spirituality and my higher power today. And I got that opportunity there, that I am enough no matter what. And loneliness would be a word that would get more and more foreign to me, because I wasn't the only person in the room anymore. Like, the way I had always felt, I've painted to you guys how loneliness has felt to me in my past. And I always had plenty of friends and a beautiful family, and my life was full on paper. But I was the only person in the room. And I learned that changed because I fucking started to care. Not because I was united with great people in recovery, which is a huge truth, and because my brain is now being understood by these people, which is another huge truth that helped with my loneliness. But what really worked and what made it so foreign to me was that I fucking cared now. And I listened to what people say. And that allowed me a lot of room too in my sobriety, was learning to listen. It just allowed me a lot of space, and I had never listened to people before. I would talk about my problems and what I had going on. And true peace came when I got to stop and listen to other people. And that also was because with the whole situation of others to some degree, I don't know, what I was just talking about, is that it had to be more important to me that I protect myself than I be right. And that's not always because I'm the bigger person, and because during healing and during these pivotal stages in my life, I chose to be better, because I didn't. It's not that simple. I didn't wake up one day and choose sobriety and choose healing and do the right thing from there on out. Still to this day, that wasn't reality. But whether it's selfish, whether it's what the fuck ever, I had to learn that protecting myself was more important, thus allowing people peace at the end of the day, and the fact that I didn't have to be right. So whatever that healing aspect looks for your personal brain and how to make that work is kind of up to you. But that's what did it for me, because I couldn't some days choose what was best. Most of the time, especially in early sobriety, I couldn't choose what was best because I didn't fucking know. Something else that I learned was that I was going to have to go on a limb now for most of my life in different topics in different ways, because my brain operates differently. And simply, I'm going to have to reach and overcomplicate how to be kind and gentle, and go out on a limb on when I feel lonely, when I feel selfish, when I feel like other people have done me wrong. I still go out on that limb, because I know to some degree I'm not operating in this great peaceful capacity that I ought to. And does the general public operate like that? No. But do I want to? Do I want my life to look like that? Does it have to? Because I need balance, because I need these things in my life? Yeah. And I had to learn that that's okay. That is just the way my life looks. And that it doesn't matter the hand I'm dealt. All that matters is that I can defy it over and over again. And that also goes for mental health just as much as it does alcoholism and addiction. In so many facets of life, it does not matter what I was dealt. It mattered that I defied that. And that was a huge part of my sobriety too, was defiance, and defying my past ways, defying who I used to be. And maybe to some degree that was comfortable for me, because defiance was how I lived my life before. We all know. We get it. And maybe that rebellion against myself really helped me. That there was some sort of rebellion, of defiance, of proving that I could do it. And in these 50 weeks, can't believe it, I have learned one of the most important things was utilizing balance. And that was something that I could only do when I could finally get quiet and dive into my soul. And that is, it takes strength to do that. And I understand that. And it starts as a very fearful situation to just dive into your soul head on. You don't even know what fucking monsters are in there and you don't want to know. And I think that's why balance didn't start to work for me until I could get silent with her. And of course, there is the balance that, y'all know I love talking about balance. It's really important to me. And balance in, yes, emotional regularity and in all aspects of my life and in coming out of this place of severity. So balance, yes, I do mean in the actual sense of balance, but it was also in this equation that other people seem to understand in life. That there is a balance of, in order to be free, I must grant freedom. In order to be heard, I must be a listening ear. In order to receive love, I have to give love. I learned that I had spent so much time taking. And this is where it became important, the mark that I made. And that it was also, can I speak, equally as important what I leave as what I take. And that was not a concept I had understood before in life. And it felt like this equation was kind of making sense because it stripped me of entitlement and united me with self-awareness. I didn't deserve anything that I didn't also freely give and or work for. And I had this underlying entitlement that I just deserve these things in life innately without giving anything. And I think that led me to see, the equation I'm referring to is that allowed me to see life as a much bigger picture. Which I think for me, my alcoholic and addict brain, and I wonder if it's like this for other people, is the difficulty in seeing big picture. Was a common theme for me in all of my life, whether it was anxiety, depressions, alcoholism, addiction, whatever. And I imagine a lot of other people, because to me, every single drunk was so valuable, like in every high, so valuable, so important. And it was a very situation day to day and just bouncing from drunk to drunk. And as cheesy as this is, I was reading through something that I found because I'd seen something on my Instagram, because I was stalking my own Instagram. Don't pretend you don't do it. And it was in the book where I said, I don't know. And this was during the peak of, I was like about to hit rock bottom. So I was not doing well at this point. And I wrote in there, I don't know why we are different from each day, we just are. Because I was so confused on like, I don't know. That's a very introspective and strange drunk thought. You know, like I used to have the most strange fucking drunk thoughts. And that was one of them. And I don't know, to me, that just represented that feeling of it being so valuable and of me not like separating days and understanding growth and the evolution of life. And this is a really weird and complicated way to put this, and I feel like I could have said this more seamlessly, but I'm not, and here I am. But I needed assistance in viewing life as a much bigger picture. It was really scary for me to step out of that rhythm of bouncing from important drunk to next important drunk to next important high to next important bag to next important thing. That was the rhythm that I understood for many years, and it was very difficult to step out of that. So I think that's why the balance equation really worked, because I could, it awarded me with forgiveness, honestly, is what it really did, because it's a whole life, and it doesn't matter what happens next, you know? Like, I don't have to be so afraid of the future and what it holds. And to me, that was a concept that I could see other people grasp that in their brain. But because I was an alcoholic and addict, that piece was missing. It taught me that I don't have to be perfect in this deep-rooted type of way. Because like we talked about, I really struggled with that. And it wasn't as simple as finding those answers in this easy way of somebody telling me that I'm great or whatever. Like, no, I have to be perfect. And I had to learn it in a deep-rooted way that came from within my soul. And I think that's what a lot of lessons in sobriety looked like for me, was that I had to find my path to understand that concept far more than seeing it in the room on a piece of paper, on a billboard, on a sign, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on wherever. It was like the saying had to mean something to me deep down. And it took a lot of different routes to kind of find those things. But what the equation showed me was that life doesn't provide us the tools to be perfect. Life provides me the tools to move forward. And in some way that united me with forgiveness in myself in such a way that I had never understood before. And it was a complicated situation because in that balance, I expected so much of myself, but I didn't expect anything of others. And when I was analyzing the whole balance situation, and you take what you get what you know what I'm trying to say. Fuck. You know what I'm trying to say. I've been sitting here for like 48 minutes. There was a gap there. And that wasn't because... It was because I thought less of people. I didn't expect shit from them. And that was simply because the balance was broken because I thought less. And what I learned is that people deserve to be held accountable too. People deserve that. Because I didn't need to think so low of them. And that, ironically enough and strangely enough, is what would lead me to find my voice. And I'll like retie all this at the end of what I'm about to say, but I just wanted to point out that I just needed to be right. I didn't view myself as somebody I needed to protect. I just had to be right. And there's a different version of finding your voice. And I'm talking about finding your voice in confidence, in love, in self-respect. Not you have your voice because you're a hothead, which was the type of voice I had before. And we discussed it. It was hard for me to relocate my voice again after I got sober because I did want a life of patience and love. And I understood that I did need to be in service of other people. And that was just one of my rules. But the voice that I had before where I lashed out, she just needed to be right and she just needed to be understood. I don't have to be understood anymore. So I needed to be somebody that was worthy of protection now. And then I had to understand that honesty helped other people and that they are now someone I see as capable. Which maybe that also came with the fact that I expected more of myself and now I expected more of others. And not in this way of I expect shit out of you, but in a way that it had been broken before, and because I finally fucking listened to the fact that they were capable the whole time. And it was me thinking less of them. And that was this teamwork aspect, this unity of me uniting with humanity that had come into play. And it was that complicated for me to find my voice, to find out that I was actually helping other people and that I had respect for them. When I came to them with an issue or when I had something to say, that was out of respect because I view them as somebody who's capable now. And it really helped me to know that maybe they are just as complex and confused as me. And that was something that I had understood before. And I think that it really helped build my patience later, that I already kind of had this base before I started healing in sobriety of patience to some degree. And I don't know where that comes from. I think that I got that implanted in me from my mom, honestly. That was so strange. That was such a strange way to put it. But I really clung to the spiritual axiom, and we've discussed that here. And the spiritual axiom is basically like you have one finger that way, you've got three pointed back. And the thing that bothers you about other people is often what bothers you about yourself. And that really just stuck to me throughout my sobriety. I think I just needed amplification. Like, I guess that it was up to me and that it was just about me. Like, my healing didn't matter what other people were doing. And if I was right, if I was like, it didn't matter. What mattered was me and doing the next right thing. And that was something that had to be drilled in me, but kept reoccurring, luckily. And I think it's a great place to have a foundation of sobriety because it also allows accountability to be much more in reach. Sometimes it's a very complicated and strange thing to learn to understand is accountability. And y'all know I love talking about accountability. It's a huge part of my sobriety and my life. And I have my days and I'm like, I'm not fucking wrong, but we all know I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend I'm fucking perfect. But I do choose and try the path of accountability. And I don't know, through understanding others in that way and viewing it as like a patience kind of situation that I could just be wrong. I don't know. I don't feel like explaining that. Straight up. You get what I'm saying though. Like my train of thought was leaving the station and I could have grasped it, but I just didn't. So we're moving on. A lot of today seems to be me talking about others. And honestly, I think that's because leading into another point, just on fire today, was that this concept, y'all know I love it, of living life on life's terms. And to me, in my sobriety, that had a lot to do with other people because I had such a fucked up, skewed perspective on other people and on life and on the way this whole equation looked. And I needed to build where I would fit into humanity, like where I fit into this. And that, for me and my personal equation, had a lot to do with other people. So that's why I talk about it a lot. And for a brain like mine, finding where I belong looks like surrender. Because there's only so many ways to combat such a severe brain. And learning to live life on life's terms, learning that concept was one of the most freeing things for me to understand because I did have to turn it all over. And at this time in my life, I did not have self-regulation. It was fucking grueling. The amount of walks and deep, heavy breathing that I had to go through to understand that self-regulation was extreme. And so it was very important to understand that I combat severity with severity. And that's with me, not only as an alcoholic and addict, but somebody who suffers deeply from did suffer deeply from mental disorders. Is that another representation of balance? Severity was severity, girl. I'm telling you. But it was grueling to know that I couldn't throw tantrums anymore. And that I couldn't be upset when things didn't go my way. And that even in the quiet, when I'm alone in my home, I can't throw things. I'm here to be honest. And y'all know about the past of my anger and the way things looked for me before. And hothead, that's okay. That's okay. But it meant healing in this way and of turning my life over meant in the dark. That's where it counted the most. It meant alone. It meant that self-regulation bloomed into every aspect. And I remember I told y'all one time that I flipped the fuck out in my apartment when I was sober. I was making the podcast at this point. This was like 6 months ago. I flipped my shit, girl. And I was throwing something in my room and broke something. And I felt so guilty. I came here and told you about it because I couldn't think of I couldn't even talk to people about it. I couldn't even look my sponsor in the eye because I didn't know it at the time, but I needed to be patient with myself and understand that self-regulation takes time, especially for somebody like myself. But also going hand in hand with that was that almost most importantly, I also couldn't let my pain and my emotions overtake me. And I was really tired of, and this was the beginning of sobriety. So I was really tired of my moods being so happy and so sad. It was fucking exhausting. And I really needed regulation right there. And finding that was extremely difficult. It was just I don't mean to say it's extremely difficult because I don't want to deter you, but it's just a hard corner to hit in sobriety. Because you're angry. I was angry and I was sober and I missed alcohol. And my hands were clenched at my fucking side because I was pissed off. And some days I was miserable. And it came in these spurts. And I had rid myself, this isn't even anger problems. One day, I've talked to y'all about this in the anger episode. One day when I was fucking 18, I stopped throwing shit. Or 17, I just stopped throwing shit and having tantrums. I don't know what happened. It just happened. And so even in my sobriety, even in my active addiction, I wasn't experiencing these extreme highs and lows like I had before, and this was on account simply of me getting sober and the irritability in some ways that surrounded getting clean and having to remain sober. And what I would learn was that that corner and those emotions were too big for me. And it was a blessing to learn that. I had to give up control. I had to give it up. because I could rationalize the fact that it was too big because it felt too big and my anger was so big. And I think that situation, that discomfort pushes people to go back out and drink. And it nearly pushed me several times, like on the edge of your seat, just like fuming. And that was something that I had to live through, and I had to keep remaining sober through. And that's when I kind of began navigating what higher power would look like for me. And at first I would just beg the literal air to rid me of this feeling and to help me control myself. And eventually it would lead to help me get rid of this judgment. Like I said earlier, hands clenched at my side. I need relief from this discomfort that I feel inside of me right now. And it worked. And that's why I eventually, and I've told you before, asked for the desire to drink to be taken away. Asked for my judgment and stuff to be taken away. Whether it was something on the other side, whether it was hard work and me saying it over and over during tough times, have you be it. But that is what allowed me to explore my higher power. Only because I wasn't reliant on me, I could fix my problems. All I had to do was ask for help. And that was really important for me to understand in my sobriety. I cannot fix all these problems. And I can't get through this time period, this discomfort, if I think I can fix all those problems. That type of discomfort is deep-rooted and stubborn and fucking cosmic. That shit is brutal. And you can do all this work in the rooms, do all your step work, do all of this, try to work around trying to heal, and it's those moments that click in space where you're irritable and fucking discontent, like a bat out of hell is how I felt sometimes. And again, I don't know why I bring up that kind of scenario, but when I looked back, I looked at the most trying times of my sobriety and of early sobriety, and that was something that I was able to learn here too. And that was something that I thank you for, because I came on here and I was honest and I was vulnerable about it. And that's an embarrassing fucking thing to talk about. To be irrational and discontent in that way and be such a severe person I hid that for years and it was exhausting. And one thing I learned here, one thing I learned in sobriety in the rooms and stuff, was that I don't have to be that way anymore. Because I learned that, I could be free of discussing it. And that was just a great feeling for me, because I thought that the deep, true way that I could throw a tantrum in my stomach and the severe way that I could be was just like being a hothead, I guess, and was something that I just didn't think would leave me. And to know that I can truly cleanse any aspect of my soul with the help of others and with the help of my higher power and with hard work. And that's fucking awesome. Any part of me can be healed, and any part of you can be healed. And that is, I really learned that through discovering getting rid of those situations. And I wish I had more answers for that discontent feeling, but it's too big. It's too big, and it's not something that you can handle on your own. And I'm not sitting here religion basing this and telling you to go find God and telling you to do whatever. But like I said at the beginning, I would breathe it out into the air and just be like, fucking help me. Asking for help. I'm getting intense. That topic just gets me riled up. There is a lot of things that lead me here today, and a lot of things that I have learned. And that is only because I did choose to take this journey as my own. I knew that the answers were here and deep inside of me, and that was the only place that I had to go to find them. And at the end of the day, I did have to trade everything that I have ever known for a healthy life, and I would do it again. And sometimes that's what sacrifice looks like. And that used to be that white flag of surrender used to be a very scary thing to me, but I learned in a complicated brain it's important. And sobriety is very complicated. Healing is very complicated. That is only because it is complicated for me to be simple. And that's what I've learned through healing, is that all of this is this big equation to find simplicity. Just like the big equation to find happiness, to find peace. It's all of this huge shit to get simple. And getting sober is obviously I say it a lot, but it is far more than getting rid of the drink. It is finding how life works for you and finding where you fit in and how to make this place beautiful for yourself. And that's what I want to inspire you to do, because it is a possibility. Yes, we live life on life's terms, but it is possible for it to be beautiful for you too. And I always aim for you and to represent for you the importance of accountability and of emotional balance and healing in my sobriety. And I think I'm blessed for that when I came in to recovery, I wanted to make a change, and that I knew it was going to cost that much of a change. I think people don't recognize that. And it made sobriety a beautiful thing for me. It made it something that I continue to want over and over again. And it allows me to fall in love with it in different ways all the time, because there's different versions of me. So do you guys want me to tell you what I was going to tell you earlier, but I said I can't tell you before this ends? So my sister and I are fucking around. People have been telling me that I need to make a NA brand. Can I speak? A mocktail brand. And my sister and I were saying, what if we did a 6-pack, but like 1 in 6 like had liquor? Like Russian roulette. That's not funny. See, like, I would never do something like that. I don't think relapse is funny, okay? But sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself. It's just stupid. So anyways, again, without further ado, I just felt like saying that. I don't know. I've never really say that without further ado. I wanted to say it. Anyways, this is episode 50. And again, for the 50th time, I thank everyone who listens to this. And y'all know my inbox is always open, and I truly mean that. I will talk to people for hours, any time of day, whatever you need help with. I'm there for you, except for if I'm asleep. I'm not up late anymore. So these are just some things that were really pivotal for me that I learned. A lot of this is stuff I learned here talking to you, and or in the rooms, and or with my sponsor, and or doing some soul searching. So, and we will shed our skin these next few episodes. So get ready for some shedding. Okay. But anyways, I hope you all have a great week. Bye.